Yeah. Just thinking about the reissuance of the temporary protection order on October 12th of 2012. What incident was used for the justification of reissuing it? That I had a conversation with the pastor that I wanted to pray? Yes. The reissuance of the temporary order for protection when you put it in the newspaper? Yes. What was the incident of domestic violence or child abuse that you used to justify publication by court ordered publication? Was it what happened on Guam, or was it a private conversation between myself and a pastor? Because, well, you can't put it in publication, right? The reissuance of a protection order without an actual incidence of domestic violence or child abuse. Now, when you put this in publication, yes. And she said that she mailed it to me. Yes. What was the reasoning for the issuance of the protection order? Was it what happened on Guam? My record was expunged. The arrest record was sealed. What exactly was it? I haven't. I haven't spoke to my wife in 7 years and 3 months. I've seen my sons. But I told. What was your reason for issuing protection orders? What had happened on Guam was the reason, wasn't it? After July 13th of 2012, could you use that when you put it in publication? Yeah, against the law. You would have to have an actual incident reported to police or sheriff's departments or any person that's a mandatory reporter. Yeah, that the alleged individual, not known as a respondent, it would have been a new incident of. Do you not understand exactly how criminal this is? Um, this is not judicial process, okay? I did not receive actual notice of the hearing. In fact, after my record was expunged, right, you have never issued any court orders according to the full faith and credit provisions of the Violence Against Women's Act. I was never a resident of the state of Washington. You never had jurisdiction. You never had an actual incident of child abuse or domestic violence to be able to base your decisions on. Yes. And my private conversation with a pastor is not justification for issuing a protection order. Yes. Every time you arrested me, you never had an incident of domestic violence. Now I want you to give me my sons today. Why don't you go ahead and pay me some victims' resources? You're just going to be some hard nuts, aren't you? Probable cause. You don't have probable cause for the violating of a protection order. Well, number one, I wasn't in the city. And number two, you never had an incident of child abuse or domestic violence to base the reasoning for the issuance of the protection order. Prosecutor is a lawyer who works for the local, state, or federal government to bring and litigate criminal cases. Why don't you get me all those prosecutors again that are employed in each and every city, county, state, and federal government? Yes, as well as all tribal governments. For those of you in the tribal governments that think that I won't take your reservations, I actually will. Poach. Sorry to tell you that, but when you don't enforce the victim's bill, notary publics, a licensed public officer, administer oaths, certify signatures, and perform services. Could you get me every notary public of the United States of America for the last 40 years? Yes. And all of those that are notaries that have administered any oath of office to any elected or appointed oath of office in any city, any tribal government, any county, any state. Now, I once mentioned that the suing of the notary public for notarizing any forgeries, any fraud, yes, or allowing for the enforcement of any law, yes, when knowing about forgery, fraud, perjury, child abduction, barratry, and a number of other crimes means that I can actually sue every fucking. So get me every notary public in every state of the United States. I'm going to want to know every signature they notarized. Yes. Now, I know you might not take seriously these laws, but I do. I take them very serious when you refuse to enforce the rights of American citizens. Now, these marriage licenses, okay, document authorize a couple to get married. Yes, usually available at city county office. Then there's a marriage certificate, a document that proves sometimes issued to newlyweds few after which, yes, yes. The marriage certificate that we have is from the United Nations. Yes. Could you get me the identification number of every individual that has ever had to utilize the United Nations to administer any of the required civil laws of marriage certificates? Yes. Birth certificates? Yeah. Death certificates? Yes. As a non governmental organization that is oftentimes used in nations that do not exist. I'm going to sue the United Nations for all the knowledge they have of this county, this state, issuing court orders where there was no actual arrest or reported incident of child abuse or child or domestic violence. Yes. Now get me all of the employees of the United Nations and every identification number issued by the United Nations for the last 60 years. Having emailed the United Nations, the United States of America, allowing for the state of Washington. Thank you, Paul.